Hello everybody, you're very welcome to this podcast today. My name is Joanna Dowdall. I'm a teacher here in Dunboyne College, and with me today I have a student who attended the pre-university teaching course in Dunboyne in 2019 to 2020, and her name is Hannah Dowdall. Hannah, you're more than welcome here today, and it's great to see you. And it's been a long time since I've seen you.
I know, I feel like it's been so long, yet so not that long.
I know, it's not that long ago.
I know, but it feels either between years ago and 2 weeks ago. It feels, even though it's been like 3 years.
It's amazing. And you really hit the big time. You've been up there on the podium with Simon Harris talking about further education last year, and you've done some great things. Tell us now, what are you doing now, Hannah?
So I'm in Maynooth University and I'm studying English and criminology as a double major, and I'm currently in my final year of my undergrad.
Excellent. And what's your plans then further down the line with your academic life?
So I plan to go on and eventually teach further education, so that's the line of work I kind of want to go into.
Excellent. So Hannah, I'm going to take you back now. I do want to talk about the Simon Harris and all of that, because there was a great buzz around the school when we saw you there that day talking at that conference. But I'm going to take you right back to your days in Dunboyne. Obviously I was one of your teachers for communications and work experience. Tell me about the experience that you had in Dunboyne College firstly.
So for me, when I first came in, I think I didn't know really what to expect. You know, like I wanted to go to university, like I wanted to go do my level 8, and then kind of when it came to the time, I was like, do you know what? I think I'm going to take a year and just take it slow. I'm too young to go to university. Slowed it down a tiny little bit, and I decided to go and do the PLC. So when I first came in, I didn't know if it was kind of going to be university. I didn't know if it was kind of going to be secondary school. I didn't know what way it was going to kind of be delivered or what way the atmosphere was going to be. So we came in and I met Patrice and I met my group, my lovely class group, and we all immediately clicked. And I was like, no, this is going to be a lovely time. Like we were all immediately adding each other on Snapchat and, you know, getting to know each other very well. So we became a very close-knit group. So I think from the get-go, nearly, it was kind of, we all settled in very well, myself anyway. And yeah, it kind of made the experience a lot easier, knowing that you have a little support group and that you always have someone there for you, whether it's between ourselves or with Patrice or with yourself, you know, like everyone was kind of welcoming. So that made things so much easier.
Yeah. So initially when you came here, firstly, you felt that you just weren't ready for university and you were a bit unsure about what you wanted to do. Had you known anybody that had, you know, been a student here in Dunboyne before, or what made you decide that this was going to be the place for you?
So I've had a few people kind of tell me like, oh, I went to Dunboyne, I did a course and stuff like that, but never anybody I really, really knew. So when I was talking to my parents about it, my dad turned around and he was like, sure, I did a PLC. Now, he never did it in Dunboyne. He did it through other things, but he was like, I did a PLC. I was like, you did? And he was like, yes, I did. And he did it in healthcare and he did it in his mid-30s. And he's like, sure, if I can do it, you can do it. And I just thought to myself, I was like, do you know what? I'll do it. If my dad can do it, it'd be fine. And I went in, I was like, my dad did this? This is not as easy as I thought, but at the same time it wasn't, you know, it wasn't overbearing, you know, but it was still kind of what my dad described it would be, you know, and only for him, I think he's the one that kind of pushed me to do it.
And initially when you first came here, I mean, how did you find the work? Was it different than your sort of preconceived ideas about a PLC?
110%. Like when I first came in, for me in secondary school, I suppose I kind of maybe got the idea that it was kind of for somebody who didn't get the points in their Leaving Cert, or it was kind of for somebody who wasn't too, you know, good academically, and that was just kind of the impression I got. And I kind of was apprehensive a little bit because I was never terrible in school. I was never the best, but I just said I'd take the year anyway, and as soon as I came in I was like, oh God, no, this is definitely not what I thought it was going to be. The workload was, you know, it was nice. It wasn't too much. It wasn't too overbearing, but it was a nice introduction into, you know, college life, I suppose. You know, you're learning how to reference. You're still going by, you know, that whole reference and guide and what you would do in university. You're still writing the same way academically. It's just, you know, in a less intimidating setting, I suppose.
And, you know, would you have said that you were a confident person when you first came to Dunboyne? How did you feel as a person? And then I suppose what I'm getting on to then, did you feel that the year changed you being here? Did you mature? You know, did you, with the skills you developed, do you feel that really was a great transition in your life, transformative in your life rather?
That's actually a really good question. I was talking to my dad only about this a couple of days ago. You know, at the start, I suppose I came in and I was always a very, very shy person unless you really get to know me. It's only when I really know a person do I kind of come out my shell. But, you know, I've been working in hospitality since I'm 16, I suppose. So then that kind of brings me out my shell as well, but not in a very, you know, I put on it, like I talk to people, I talk to customers, I'm welcoming to customers, and it's kind of like, that's my job. But me personally, if I'm in like an academic setting especially, I was very seclusive, very quiet, kind of kept to myself. And, you know, as I said earlier, like getting to know my group and getting to know my classmates was a great help because I got to come out my shell a little bit more. And then I kind of didn't really realise it, but looking back on it, like I moved out of my house, I moved out of my parents' home when I was in Dunboyne. I kind of started managing myself, got a little bit more organised. And looking back, at the time I suppose I didn't really realise it, but looking back on it now, I 100% changed as a person. Like myself now and myself in 2019, the start, are two completely different people. If you asked me to do a podcast in 2019, I'd be like, go away. No hope. But now I suppose, like, you tell me to come, I'm like, yeah, no bother, I'll be up at 12, you know.
And what do you think created that change in you? Was it just that you, tell me about the skills that you felt that you developed on that PLC course?
So, like,
talk about the communications now, please.
No, but honest to God, communications, like only for you being like, don't look at the camera, don't look at the camera.
Thank you.
I'd be staring at that camera in the corner all day if not. But like the communications element, of course, and then that was the best module.
Oh God, of course.
But
yeah. Like, you actually giving me a compliment.
Little bit. But I suppose as well, I did a pre-university teaching course, so a lot of education elements were involved in that. So I remember one of my modules particularly, everyone was kind of terrified to do because we were all only after starting. Like thank God I knew a lot of my classmates prior to starting, but as I said, we all became very close. So like we were all a lovely little group and we were all good friends. But when it came to like standing in front of the class and talking, you're like, oh God, I hope they're not videoing me. But
we were.
But yous were. But we had to do a class plan and we had to present it to everybody. And I remember everyone was kind of apprehensive. And I said, I think it was kind of the turning point for me. I was like, I'll get up and do it first. And that was just not me.
I actually remember that day.
Yeah, I was like, I'll get up. It's fine. I'll get up and do it myself. It's fine. And I flew through it. And I think after that, I was like, I can do this. Mm-hmm. I can do this. So I suppose just all the communication elements combined of every single module, whether that be, like I studied Irish as well. And we had to do like recorded orals and stuff like that and speak in front of everybody. So I suppose everything combined, all these public speaking elements really brought me out my shell, and anyone I've spoken to would say the exact same thing.
And do you feel that, you know, that this supports, I mean, I know that you're studying this, probably you talk about these theorists who build this scaffolding around you. Anybody, I suppose, that teaches on, you know, looks at psychology or understands psychology will understand that it's that support network is very important. How important actually and how significant was that support network that you had here with regards that transformation that you went through in that year?
like, it was hugely beneficial. Like, for me, when I started in Maynooth compared to me starting in Dunboyne, you know, I missed COVID. I finished here in Dunboyne, missed COVID, and then I transitioned straight away into level 8, and everybody was online. And I suppose your little network wasn't there anymore. You still had your people that you spoke to in Dunboyne, but everyone's gone doing different things. Everyone's busy. Everyone's making their own different friend groups and stuff. And I didn't have the exact same little network, the close-knit group you could go and talk to about anything. So only for, like, I'd say if I hadn't done my PLC and I hadn't made my little network, or I hadn't gained that confidence, like, in that year, I would be probably the exact same person I was at the start of 2019. Because, as I said, it's very hard because there's so many people. You don't really think there's that many people, but there's so many people in your course. I remember walking into my first lecture in second year, because as like COVID, I walked in and there was 320 people sitting in a lecture hall, and I was like, how is there that many people in one room? So it was very hard to, like, make that same little close-knit group of people. So only for my little friend group in Dunboyne and the support I had from the lecturers and everything, I'd say I'd still be the exact same quiet person I was.
So we're going to talk now in a minute about, you know, where you are now, and we're going to talk about your university life. But just before we get into that, do you feel yourself that you were happy then to move on to university because you were this confident person? You know, sometimes people move on to university when they haven't done a PLC, and it's a terrifying place to be. You know, how did you feel? You know, I know you missed that first year because of COVID, but in the second year, I mean, how did you feel actually walking in? Did you feel, I'm prepared for this now? I
definitely felt like I was a bit more confident. I walked in and I was like, oh, show me that map, I'll know where I'm going. I know where this room is, I know where that room is. I kind of like knew the layout kind of straight away because I'd been in a college setting before. So I kind of knew, oh yeah, no, the English rooms are normally over there, the law rooms are normally over there, the education rooms are normally over there. And like I kind of grasped that concept fairly quick, like getting my actual physical whereabouts of the college. And then, you know, academically writing, that was no problem at the start. But I will say, just from coming back from COVID, like it was very hard to make friends, very hard to get to know people because you're in a much bigger setting. However, you do have the confidence to get to know people a little bit more. Whereas, as you were saying, like if you were, you know, freshly out of the Leaving Cert, going into secondary, going into university, it's a big transition. And I don't think people realise that until they actually do it. And you start to feel very overwhelmed fairly fast. And you go in and there's so many people, there's loads of lecturers. It's not the same as secondary school. You show up if you want to show up. Nobody's going to keep tabs on you. It's a very different atmosphere and it's very daunting. So I suppose like getting to know people in a PLC first, and like everyone's kind of in the same situation as you, especially when you do your course. So like, you know, a lot of people are going to probably go on and do the same course as you. So at least you know some people.
So I'm going to ask you just to tell me what you're studying in Maynooth at the minute, and then I'm going to just backtrack just for a second. So tell me what course you're studying in Maynooth.
So I'm doing an arts degree and I am doing a double major with English and criminology.
Okay. Now, we're going to talk about the process of getting there. So, and obviously this is for the benefit of, you know, students that are just starting their PLC, or students that are thinking of coming to do a PLC. How difficult was that process with regards what you had to achieve in Dunboyne with regards to the work, because it's a heavy workload. So what advice would you give to students? Because you're thinking that there are people that are going to decide, you know, right, this is going to be the year for me now to do a PLC. But talk about the process of actually, you know, getting as far as getting a place in university. What is it that you have to do this year, you know, the year that you're in your PLC? Tell us a little bit about that process.
So the big thing, and all your lecturers are going to tell you it, and you don't listen until you're probably in nearly second semester, get organised. Get organised, know what you want to do. Like, you don't have to decide straight away, but have an idea. Surely you have an idea if you're doing the course, you know. But, you know, kind of get organised with yourself, your essays, your, you know, upcoming projects, stuff you have due. Write out a schedule and kind of get that under wraps. Otherwise, because I found myself doing it in my first half of the year in Dunboyne, you know, I kind of got overwhelmed. Everything got cluttered. You know, I wasn't organised. I wasn't too sure what was coming up next, what was coming in the following week. Next minute I had 10 assignments to do in 1 week. So organisation is key when it comes to PLCs, university, everything, and life, obviously. But like, it's just a huge part of, like, once you're organised, half the battle is done. And I suppose after that, just, you know, listening to your lecturers, taking notes, going home, actually doing the work. You know, not, oh, can you send me on your answers? Can you pass me on this? Oh, I'll give you mine next week. It's just, it won't cut it, because in the end, your grades will reflect your attitude and, you know, the way you felt about your course. So getting organised and, you know, eventually getting to know people, and then that helps you as well. Like, once you talk to people, get to know people in your course, kind of helps you realise, okay, no, this is what I want to do. These are the kind of people that I get on with. I click with these people very well, and if I can get on with these people, we all want to do the same thing. So it kind of makes you realise, you know, I want to work in this environment where these people are with me, do you know? And I suppose just main thing, organisation.
Now, I'm always very aware that, you know, as a teacher, when you firstly walk into a classroom, on the 19th of September now, we'll all walk into that classroom and you'll see people there, and, you know, you have a chat with them, you say, everybody okay? Yes, we're all fine. But a lot of people are going to feel, am I going to get through this year? Is it going to be difficult for me? What about the supports that are here? What do you think of this? Do you think the supports here helped you achieve your academic goal?
Oh, 100%. Like, I knew for myself, like, from the get-go, I could contact Patrice if I had an issue. I could contact yourself.
What about me? Thank you.
It was coming. I could contact either of you, especially when COVID hit.
Yeah.
Like, yous were constantly texting us, asking if everything was okay. Did you need anything? And like other lecturers as well. That was just to give you a little shout.
Of course, thank you.
Yous, like, all the lecturers were constantly emailing, like, if you need other supports, they're all here. And like, we were always getting emails. If you need any supports, like, I didn't need any, like, me personally, I didn't go as far as any other supports except the lecturers themselves.
But they're here.
They're all here, and like, you're always made aware of them. And if a lecturer doesn't know how to help you, they refer you somewhere else. And there's always someone to go to.
Okay.
You're never stuck.
Yeah. So let's move on now, right? So you finished with us, you moved on to Maynooth. So you're studying English and criminology. Why did you pick that particular arts degree?
Joanna told me.
Yes, come on. What about the English literature?
Joanna told me to.
Big it up.
Forced me. No, I suppose, like, that was always on my CAO, and I didn't, like, it was kind of well down the line, but I kind of thought an arts degree, in my mind, again, another misconception I had, was that it was just kind of a degree that you do if you don't know what you want to do. And when I came here and I did, like, work experience and I did all these other modules, I was quickly informed, no, it's a lot more than just that course. Like, you can go into so much if you do that course. So obviously I went into Maynooth at the start and I picked 4 modules. I did English, I did criminology, the 2 I stuck on, and then I did philosophy and I did psychology. I loved every single one of them so much, but then in the end I kind of just went with what I could see myself teaching. And, you know, it's amazing how you don't realise what a course entails until you actually do it. And I love psychology when I was here, and when I went to university it was a lot about, you know, equations and stuff like that, and I was like, no.
Statistics and things like that, yeah.
And for me, I'm not a very mathsy person. I'm more of an English wordy kind of person, so for me it was no. And then philosophy, I loved it, but it was kind of something I liked to study in my spare time and kind of read about and research in my own time, although I really, really, really enjoyed it. But as I said, I could see myself, like when I was learning it and writing out my notes and stuff, I could see myself being like, oh, I could teach this. I think I could definitely see myself teaching this. So I kept the two on. And then last year as well, I did community education as an elective. And I really enjoyed that as well. And that kind of really brought me out of my shell in regards knowing what I want to teach and, you know, knowing that I want to go into teaching. So, yeah, like, yeah.
Is the environment very different in Maynooth?
Like, it's, you still have your little social circles, you still have your little friends, you still have your groups, and you still have, you know, different academic stuff that are there. Like, you still have a lot of stuff very similar. However, it's a much bigger environment and like so vast, you don't realise how big it is until you go in. And I say this to everybody and everyone's like, yeah, no, you were right. I was like, I'm telling you, it's not, like, you look at the pictures, you do the virtual online day and stuff like that, and it is so big. And you go in and there's just, it's so different. Like, I thought, like, oh, sure, I made my friends fairly quick, like, I'll get to know everybody so well. Like, then you realise there's like over 1,000 people in your course, and you're like, yeah, no, I'll probably meet 2 people. You know, like, it's a much different atmosphere, like, because it's so big. Whereas here, it was very easy to make friends. It was very easy to get to know people. It was very easy to get to know your lecturers. But like, if I remember I met one of my lecturers actually in Tesco, and I was walking through doing my shop and she was doing her shop, and I was like, oh, well, how are you? And she's like, hi, kind of looking at me. And I was like, oh, do you not remember me? And then she was like, no. And I was like, then I kind of realised, I was like, oh, I'm one of your students. I kind of walked along very fast with my trolley. But if it was here, I'd be like, oh, well, how are you? You know who everybody is.
And what about, I mean, academically, how different was the course is the course in Maynooth from Dunboyne? It's like, I feel like Dunboyne set me up very, very well because, you know, I had all my different elements. You know, my pre-university teaching was very, you know, I had academic elements, I had English, I had Irish, I had maths if I wanted to do it, which I didn't do. And then I had history, and I had so many different options I could do. And it was kind of the same when I went in. I was kind of prepared for that. Whereas I feel like if I had done maybe, I don't know, pre-university law, let's just say, and then I went in and I did an arts degree, I'd be like, why am I picking so many subjects? Why do I have to do this? You know? Whereas for me, I knew the options were going to be there. And again, I feel like if I went in just from Leaving Cert and I just did an arts degree, I'd be very confused. I'd be like, why do I have to pick this? What's philosophy? What's psychology? What's criminology? I don't know what any of these are. So I feel like it set me up very well. And do you find that you were a help to other students who were struggling, who wouldn't, let's say, understand the whole concept behind academic writing and research and all of that?
Yeah, so when I was in my first year, I was the first year English rep, along with 2 or 3 other people. And I was constantly in the WhatsApp group chat being like, oh yeah, no, this is how you reference. And then I'd be like, if someone else, like, let's say, ask a week later, oh, how do you reference? I'd resend on the same thing I had saved in my notes. I had so many notes saved just of how to reference and what's a bibliography and different definitions just to give to people. And like, it got to a point around Christmas that a lot of people weren't grasping it. And it's totally understandable because it is hard to grasp. And I had to do Zoom workshops and send it into the group chat. And even if it just helped one person, like, you know, you just had maybe 20, 30, 10, 5 people coming in just to do it once a week. Oh, I'm still not grasping it. I'm like, yeah, no bother. Because they're kind of too intimidated to go to a lecturer or too intimidated to go and ask a lecturer, like, oh, how do I reference? Because it's kind of expected to know. And it's very hard to understand at the start. And, you know, that's how I kind of was helping people. Like, I was texting them all the time. I was very active in the group chat. Like, anybody would text me or email me and I'd be on to them straight away, or I'd try to. And like, I felt like that I was that kind of like mommy at the start of the year. Like, anyway, I was constantly asking them, did they need help? Or like, once a week I'd be like, oh yeah, does anyone want a Zoom workshop? Oh yeah, please, no bother. And then I'd set it up and then we'd chat, even if it was just for a talk, being like, how's everyone getting on?
Yeah.
And then we'd have faculty meetings and I'd bring it up then, like, oh, listen, a lot of people aren't grasping this, you know, referencing, or a lot of people are feeling uncomfortable with this, a lot of people are feeling uncomfortable with that. And then we brought up and then we brought to the lecturer's attention, but the student would never know it came from them, do you know?
And do you think that's because you witnessed firsthand the support that a student needs when they're trying to learn all of these new things and new ideas?
100%. Like, I remember one time we, like, us as a group, it might have been in, say, October, November, me and the whole class group were like, right, we need to understand this whole referencing thing, we need to get it. So we just went and found an empty room and we all sat down and we all just helped each other. Or if we had an issue, it was like, Joanna, how do you do this? Joanna, how do you do that? Or it was never a fear in asking. But obviously at the start, it's like, Miss Joanna. But at the start, it's, you know, once you get into it a little bit more, you know, like, you make your friends, you do it together. And I suppose in Maynooth at the start, nobody really had that because nobody really knew each other. So it was a great way for people to get to know each other as well. Because I know some girls that like went to the workshop and they became good friends because they met each other through the workshop.
So, I mean, this is your final year in Maynooth. This is a massive year for you, isn't it? What next?
I want to go on and I want to teach in further ed. So that is the plan. I want to go and do some teaching practice and eventually get my qualification and teach in further ed and teach English and criminology.
And you talked about a master's. You've got the idea of doing a master's as well, have you?
Like a master's in adult education as well.
Okay, all right, very good. Now, I can't let you go today without talking about Simon Harris. How did you get the Simon Harris gig? Tell us all about that, because that was you were at that conference and you spoke extremely well, I must say.
I just couldn't believe I got the email. I got an email one day, I think it was actually from Catherine, and she emailed me and she was just asking me, hey, there's this opportunity coming up, would you like to speak with Andrew Brownlee and Simon Harris? And I was like, was this sent to the right person? What was going on? So I called her and we had a chat and I was on board with it. I was like, why not? Sure, we'll go for it. And actually a funny thing was I had to write out a whole speech and it was about 2 pages long. Like, I had this whole speech prepared, and if you've seen the video, I waffle. So I had this whole thing prepared and sent it on, all proofread, all everything, all good to go. So I didn't bring it with me. I had it all prepared, like yourself. I had a few little jot down things and I was like, it'll be fine. Be grand. So I walked into the back room, met Simon Harris, shook his hand, and he was like, where's your notes? I was like, don't have any notes. And he had a whole binder and he was like, are you serious? I was like, yeah. He goes, you know, you're going to be talking for a few minutes. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, best of luck to you. Then afterward he was like, I need to get some tips. He's like, where did you learn this? I was like, further ed.
Exactly. Well, we were so impressed because myself and Patrice were watching it and we were saying, she's speaking without notes. And do you remember what we used to always say in the communication class? Know your topic and be passionate about what you're talking about. And if you're passionate, you'll be able to keep that conversation going. Yeah. And you certainly were, because you really showed that day that really you were really promoting further education. I mean, what an ambassador for further education you were that day.
I'm self-proclaimed, I say to everybody.
I'm telling you were fantastic. And, you know, but it is great, isn't it? I mean, you really are. I mean, I know that further ed with regards to PLC has really resonated with you. And I know we've talked before about this and you've said, I am where I am because of PLC. Yeah. You know, and that is what we want, and you know, you are the future. You are the students that we want to see going out that door and confident and ready to take on anything. I mean, would you have ever seen yourself standing up on a podium at a conference speaking to, you know, Minister Harris?
Absolutely not. Like, had you told 2018 me, you know, you're going to be up on stage talking with Simon Harris, I'd be like, go away. Like, absolutely no chance of that happening. Not a hope in hell. And, you know, I didn't feel any nerves, not at all. I didn't feel anything until I walked out onto the podium and I seen people with the, you know, Irish Times and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is actually happening. This is real. You know, definitely never took myself as a public speaker ever in my life. I would have said like, no, I avoid it, not for me. But, you know, all the practice I've had and stuff like that, like it all came together, and that video kind of shows, like, again, if I could do it, anybody could do that. You know, like, as long as you said, as long as you're passionate and as long as you actually enjoyed your course, it really shows. And it really shows how much you enjoyed it if you can go up and talk about it to anybody. And like anybody that comes to me, say, like, as I said, I work in hospitality and we get a lot of young people coming in, and they'd come up and they'd say, oh, I don't know what I want to do in college, I don't know what I want to do. And I'm like, PLC, do a PLC. And they don't believe me until they actually do it. And then they do it and they come back to me, they're like, no, you're right. I'm like, I'm telling you.
Do you look back at it, you know, this whole journey since you started, I mean, or rather when you look back on this whole journey, I mean, you know, how do you feel about it all? If I was to say to you, tell me really how you have felt with this whole academic journey that you've undertaken.
I suppose it was unexpected, like really unexpected the way it was going to go. Like, you know, for me, when I was younger, I always thought, you know, I'm going to finish school, I'm going to go to college and that's it. I'm going to get a job, that's the way I'm going to be. But then I went and I did the PLC unexpectedly. I didn't think that's what I was going to do. I decided the week before interviews that I was going to do it. And I came in, did my interview and, you know, took this turn. And again, I was never too academically involved. I was never too into, you know, academics. I was never too into education at all, especially in secondary school. I was like, I'll be fine. I want to teach, but I don't like school, you know, and that was always my attitude. And then I came here and I got an academic scholarship at one stage. I just applied for it, did an interview and I got to second round, did another interview and I got it. I was like, something's up here. I'm not utilising something I have. And then, you know, the more I look back at it, you know, that passion was always there. It just needed to be kind of brought out in me somehow.
So Hannah, we've some questions have come in here. So we have, Stephen is asking here, was the transition to uni difficult?
It was, at the start, yes. But again, I went through different circumstances. But at the start, it was very difficult because I went from, you know, being in college physically. Then in March, we went online. March of 2020, we went online. And then I went into university then when I graduated. And it was just a very heavy workload, something I wasn't expecting. However, had I not done my PLC, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know what situation I would have been in.
Excellent. Okay. We have Aoife also has asked the question. She says, I'm absolutely terrified of failing the course, the PLC course. How can I overcome those fears and gain some confidence?
So for me, I fully feel that question. I totally understand that, because once I started my PLC and I realised the workload and it wasn't just a DOS, I was like, what if I fail this? What if this is just a waste? Like, I'm terrified. I was scared as well, and I totally understand that. But it's a matter of embracing your course, and like, you're here because you want to be here. You're here because you want to take this year and you want to, you're interested in your course and you're interested in, you know, further in this. So I suppose kind of, you know, wanting to do your course is a big thing. And once you have an interest and you embrace the course you're doing and you get to know the people in your course and you avail of any services that are there, you know, that makes things so much easier. And just being open and just being honest. So we've actually come to the end of the podcast. Hannah, I can't tell you what a pleasure it has been to speak to you today. And it's great to see you. And I wish you all the best of luck in all your future endeavours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.